von großartigen Profi-Rennfahrern in der Startgruppe 1, die um den Sieg kämpfen. Am Ende das glücklichere Ende für Thomas Preining. Der Mercedes, gefahren zu diesem Zeitpunkt von Fabi Schiller, kam nicht mehr ran. Und am Ende war es dann doch ein versöhnlicher Abschluss an einem traurigen Wochenende für den Motorsport mit tollen Leistungen. Der Lamborghini auf der 2, der erste Verfolger vom Scherer Audi mit der Startnummer 16. Dritter Thomas Preining beim Mantai-Heimspiel, der Prolog mit einem persönlichen Motorsport.
It was saying 85% chance of rain. I'm glad it's wrong. You mentioned qualifying. There's two sets of qualifying. We've got qualifying today, which is, as you say, an all-skate, a bit of a free-for-all. And then tomorrow is the key day, Friday. We've got top qualifying tomorrow. There's a distinction of the two. And, of course, this year there's a new regulation, isn't it? 3 sessions, so qualifying Q3, Q2, Q1. Very similar to the way it runs in Formula 1, so it just makes everybody understand it. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, 1, 2 and 3.
Correct, sorry.
TQ 1, 2 and 3. We'll probably talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but we'll give you some insight into that this afternoon. The temperature reads at 8 Celsius. It feels a lot colder than that in the wind, which is actually coming up from the southwest. Normally is where the weather comes from, and normally makes it a little bit warmer than that. The first thing that we've got to say is that this is a huge crowd. It's a bank holiday here. It's Ascension Day for those of you who are following the religious festivals this year, and that is one of 2 weekend dates that the ADSE Ravenel 24 Hours of the Nürburgring falls on. It's either this one or Corpus Christi. This is the earlier one of the 2, and the campsites were busy on Tuesday actually they were busy on Monday when I rolled up. It got busier on Tuesday, more yesterday, and last night as we were leaving after our special midweek motorsport. It was absolutely bonkers, the amount of people coming in. Today, as I say, there'll be a lot of people coming in as it's a holiday. It's called a bridge weekend here in Germany because you only have to take 1 extra day to have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and that's why it's always around about this time of the year. Literally a movable feast in terms of the religious calendar. The entry is a impressive 161. There's been a self-imposed limit here for a little while. It went down to 170. First time we were here in 2007, I think it was 229 cars started. It went down to 170, then because they cut some of the smaller engine cars out, just giving you a little bit of a history lesson as we go in. Then it went down to 140. It went back up, I think it was going to be 150 this year, but there were more entries than that, and the organisers here decided that they would take all the entries that they had, which was 161, hence the weird number, spread across over 20 classes. I'm not even going to start explaining the 20 classes. I'm going to give you some homework, dear friends around the world. And if you search race car engineering and an explainer to the classes, there is an excellent article that you can access free from Race Car Engineering. Well done to Andrew Cotton and the rest of the team for putting that together. We have a green flag spot on time for this session, which is just on 2 hours, and we'll see pretty much everybody going out here. There are an awful lot of drivers here who are getting their first go at the Nürburgring 24 hours. Spoke to Michelle Gatting, for example, last night when we were doing that midweek motorsport special. 5 days ago, she put her deal together. She did her permit to allow her to race here in the big class last year with Porsche, and she's in a Porsche this year. She's in one of the Mühlner blue, black, and white cars, but it is in a Cup car that she's in, and she's never driven it before around here. We've got Jake Hill. He is with Lion Speed, with Kyle Tilley and Patrick Kolb amongst his driving partners. And he hasn't driven here in the wet yet, but he's looking forward to, again, first time. Now, that is a GT3 car, so it's his first time in the GT3 car. And so on it goes, because there is an absolutely huge amount of drivers here, as you might imagine, with 161 cars. Pretty much all of the garages have 5 or 6 cars in. There are a couple with 4 in, including the Verstappen Racing, the Winward Racing cars, the Ravenol and the Verstappen Racing car run by Winward, and they've got the family to Prem with them in the lovely bright red Audi S3 saloon. We've followed those guys down through the years. They've got a bit more sponsorship on that car now. It used to look just like a road car. Couldn't get into that garage last night, and we're not going to get access to that garage either this weekend, unfortunately. So we won't be able to talk to them this year. There's a Cayman Club Sport in that garage as well. So better conditions, Peter, than we've had this week so far, as we've gone green for the first time. But we should mention the weather forecast for the weekend is, shall I say, mixed and changeable, because every time I look at a weather app, it seems to have changed its mind.
Yes, it does. I'm thinking, so I was just watching a car slowly on the screen there thinking, why is it going so? It's because it's about to join the track, so it caught my eye, my apologies. Yes, as I said, looking out of the window of our commentary box over the pit straight start-finish line, it is fabulous to see some blue sky and white clouds when I wasn't expecting that at all. I hope it stays this way. I've got a feeling it won't. Just one of those things. But rain, it's never ideal. It makes the racing far more exciting. It usually gives us a lot more to talk about as commentators, because things happen and jeopardy becomes part of it. The drivers don't always like it. Some do, some don't. People love racing in the rain, some don't. I'm one of those weird freaks of nature, as you know. I thought I'd say it first, that enjoys racing in the rain. In fact, give me a 24-hour race, give me dark and give me rain, and I'm happy.
What was really interesting, and I said about the amount that everybody's just going out onto the Nordschleife for the first time now. You can, in these early sessions, actually, there are a set of cones out on the start-finish line of the Grand Prix track, which means you can come around and not go out onto the hats and back. So if you just want to get a bit more heat into your tyres, if you just want to shake the car down, if you just want to make sure that everything is bolted on properly, a very good idea, you can come back around and restart your lap without any penalty. But of course, that means that your lap restarts when you come back across the start-finish line. When we get into the race, those cones will disappear and you won't be able to do that. I thought it was interesting, actually, talking to a number of drivers, including Michelle Gatling and to Jake Hill last night as well. They were saying they actually hoped, because they haven't got so much experience in the cars that they are driving, they rather hoped that it was wet, because they felt that they could feel how the car was moving closer to the edge of its performance envelope, whilst not having to be quite as committed through the myriad of fast corners that there are here, Peter. And that's an interesting point, isn't it? But if you are closer to the ragged edge of adhesion, but going a bit slower, things happen. Not in slow motion, but at least the car's not snapping on you when it's getting to the edge of its grip.
Yeah, the wet's a great leveller for all drivers. Some of what we would consider normally slower cars, I use that term advisedly, but David and Goliath, they can have a bit more of a chance in the wet, because it's that great leveller. So a heavier car with less power, the power advantage isn't as much in the wet. We've just got our first, I'm going to say retirement, that's not the right phrase, but the first car to have stopped hasn't even got off the Grand Prix circuit, unfortunately. That's our number 909 Kramer Racing Cup 2 Porsche. It's either Peter Sander, Christian Kramer, or Leo Messenger at the wheel of that. I'm just going to try and find where that is. Sorry, who's driving that, but the car is currently it's on the back section. So the bit you were just mentioning about, John, it's got all the way out there. That's our first Code 60 of the weekend.
Undoubtedly not the last.
Well, no, most certainly not. That's one of our Cup 2 runs. Cup 2 cars would be very interesting. Now, we're talking about speed differentials and things there. Cup 2 runners in the dry, because they've got so much power and not as much aero, they're actually the fastest cars on the straight parts, as in dotting a her, not the SP9 GT3 cars, would you believe, which is quite extraordinary. So you'll get a Cup 2 3 car overtaking a GT3 car. It's quite extraordinary sight to behold here, of the many things you see at the Nürburgring that defy physics. Indeed. But they don't actually. That's the point. They don't defy physics. It is physics that makes it faster.
Less drag, more miles per hour, basically, is what it comes down to. Hello to those of you listening around the circuit as well on our audio service, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels, live and free for everything this weekend. So wherever you are in the world, you can take us with you. You go to radiolemans.co or radio-show.co.uk. Click on the player. We're on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network, and of course the World Feed TV, available via the Nürburgring 24 official YouTube channel. If you want to get in touch with us and join the conversation at RSL_studio, use the hashtag RSLN24. And we've already got some people doing that. That comes up in the screen in front of us. Hello to Right Turn Lover, listening in, overlooking Hock Asian. Some of those better be Asian than hopefully Hock and close to tell. Very good. Very good indeed. At RSL_studio, hashtag RSLN24. Matt Hunter is tuning into the feed from a sunny but windy Devon in the UK, introducing his workmates to the wonders of endurance racing over the next couple of days. Oh, very good, Matt. Very good indeed. I'm not even talking about times at the moment because we're not getting any full lap times. If you are coming to us from other forms of racing, and I'm sure that many of you will be, cleanse your mind. Cleanse your mind completely of any other racing that you've ever watched. Now, I even include those of you who follow us in World Endurance Championship, IMSA, the 24-hour series, Bathurst, all of the other great events, Le Mans, that we cover. Even Le Mans, you cleanse your mind. Le Mans is 8.5 miles around. This circuit is pretty much twice that. It's a little bit under twice that around the Grand Prix track, the version that we use here, and onto the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Got one of the Audi touring cars facing the wrong direction, and that is the very brightly coloured number 621, which I was talking to the guys last night. They're very excited about that car, and he's pointing back in the right direction now. Is it 621 or is that 921? It wasn't upside down, was it? 821. See, I remembered the colour but not the name.
From Sharky Racing.
Yeah, just two drivers listed on my list. That's Max Heidler, and Sasha Seigert. A couple of Germans there in the DSG, number 821. As I was saying, cleanse your mind of other motor racing. Lap times here, I'll get back to that in a moment. One of the GR Toyotas is stationary on the Grand Prix circuit, and that, I'm afraid, is not good news for one of the Toyo tyres with Ring Racing cars. This is one of the VT2 rear-wheel drive cars.
520.
The Supra of Ring Racing. Takuma Miyazono, Masato Kawabata, Okato Matsuyama, and Jin Horino, all four Japanese drivers, and Itsukoto Matsuyama behind the wheel. He's put his hazard flashes on. Lap times here are long, very, very long. Being 45 seconds off the pace is nothing here. Being 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes ahead is nothing here. That's half a lap. So when you see these big gaps during the race at the weekend and you think, oh, my guy's doing rather well, or my guy's doing rather badly, or my team's not performing, it's a 9 to 10 to 11 minute lap, depending on the classes of the cars. And therefore, those time differences that you're used to, oh my, somebody just lost 0.2 of a second. Nah, forget that. Forget that. There will be sectors where people are losing 5 seconds if they catch it wrong or catch a code 60. The other thing that you're going to have to think about, Peter, is we don't do safety cars here. There will be no safety cars, because this is in some ways a throwback, but in some ways, and you've raced here, it is responsibility being put back to the drivers to have respect for their competitors and for the safety workers.
Yeah, it's the age-old comments from your engineers in the car. They'll ask you what's doing, and you'll come back and say, well, what do you advise? And they'll say, well, you're in the car, mate. It's down to you.
Yeah.
Just very, very quickly, John, I know you said it's not about times there, but the first 2 times have come with complete laps. Grello, Manti Porsche 911, has gone second fastest. The fastest car on the circuit at the moment, though, is the BMW M3 Touring. Just had to say that. Sorry, that's a sentence I had to say.
Yeah, this is the underpinnings of an M4 GT3 that has been given a BMW M3 estate car, wagon, touring body. Started off as an April Fool's joke last year, and Andreas Reuss and the guys at M and Motorsport sort of said, you know, we could do that. We should do that. They have done it. It's running in SPX. BMW on a crest of a wave at the moment, because that organisation, with Andreas Reuss at the helm of it, has just won its first WEC race overall with their prototype, the Le Mans prototype, effectively. And they were first and second at Spa last weekend. Quite a lot of the people have come straight down from there. That's BMW M3 Touring just on the hat and back now. It was in a testing livery before. It's now in the most incredible black front with the bright coloured stripes on the back. It's going to be a modeller's dream. We're all wanting the slot car already. And I'll tell you now, I'm going to have a little side bet with you. I think that'll get through into top qualifying 3. And I think they want pole position. I think they want to win pole position. The car runs in SPX. We've got a fire in the pit lane.
Is it steam? Oh, it's steam, I think.
Is it steam?
Yeah. I'm hoping it's steam. Jens Klingman at the wheel of the Touring, by the way.
Yeah.
I totally agree with those 2 statements that I think it'll get through, and no reason why it shouldn't. I don't think it'll grab pole.
Right.
I would love it to, and I know they want it to. I just don't think it will. But the most respectable time therefore was a 9:06 straight off out of the box.
Now, the car that's in strife, and it is steam, you're
Number
right,
7 Lamborghini.
That is the Conrad Lamborghini.
We've also lost, John, by the way, the first of our SP9 runners has stopped. SP Pro cars as well. The 24 Lion Speed Porsche has stopped out on the circuit as well. Now, that is very bad news for somebody I was talking to last night, because I'm pretty certain that's Patrick Cole and Jake Hill car, along with Kyle Tilley. No, the 24 car is Heinrich Van Toren.
Oh, it's the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. That's the other one, okay. So Lawrence Heinrich, who... Lauren Heinrich, relatively newly minted LMP driver in the States, prototype driver in the States, coming back to his GT roots. Lawrence Vanto, who, as we know, is heading to McLaren for their Le Mans program, and will be developing that car whilst he's still racing for Porsche in the USA. The Dacia is out. That's the 300 car. That is the blue and bright green machine. I'm going to try and finish my thought about the BMW. The BMW M3 Touring. I had a chat with Andreas Reuss about that car prior to the first WEC round, and there has been an SPX on pole position here before, and the trophy that will be handed out tomorrow is named after it. It is the Glickenhaus trophy, and the Glickenhaus took pole position here from the SPX class. SP9 is for the homologated GT3 cars. SPX are the cars that have a similar performance to that, but aren't an homologated global GT3 car. And right now, the Touring isn't. So there's an interesting battle going on. The HWA Evos are in SPX as well, I think, if I remember rightly. We've already got now somebody's gone into the barriers there, because that is a barrier recovery. And
that's the line speed car. That's the number 24 line speed car. Metzgerfeld. That's why we've got a code 60 there.
Right. So that's the other thing. I said to you that we wouldn't get safety cars. What you will see is track vehicles, and you might be saying, if you've come from other areas of motorsport, and making other strange noises. Again, as we were talking about earlier, it is down to the drivers to be responsible. Now, if they aren't responsible, they can be taken out of the race. You can have your ring permit, which you have to work very hard to get nowadays. You can have that revoked within the race weekend, indeed within the race. We saw it at the, I think it was the qualifying weekend. At least one person had that happen. We've seen it in the race in the past as well. This is putting the responsibility back on the drivers. It's not a disregard for safety, not at all. Quite the reverse. And there are all kinds of panels and onboard features of the cars and safety features. The whole track now has got fibre all the way around, fibre optics all the way around it, so that we can have cameras around there, and that the marshals posts are all linked together. That's not to say it's not still dangerous. Of course it is. Motorsport always is, and you can't mitigate for every eventuality. So we are, what, 20 minutes in?
Well, I'm no PR man, John, as this next statement will probably validate, but it would be great at the moment if you could just put this little soundbite out. At the moment, the fastest car on the track is the BMW M3 Touring, and it is currently 5 seconds quicker than the second place car, a certain Max Verstappen in the Wimbledon Racing AMG. That's a great bit of PR for a minute for the BMW, isn't it?
Everyone likes a fast wagon.
Exactly.
And as we say that, of course, it's usurped by one of the Black Falcon
I've got it just in time, then.
It is the number one car, appropriate enough, that's gone to the top for... sorry, no, it isn't. It is the number 5 car that's gone to the top for Black Falcon, Gabriele Piana, who has just popped up to the top in that very gold-coloured car. It's gold, mate. Gold. Lovely. Gold and orange and black. And there's some fantastic liveries here this year. And there is a spotter guide for all 161 cars. Expertly done.
So what a fabulous mix at the top already, John. I know it is only early days, and it's just a little bit of an eye to where we might be going, but fastest car at the moment is a Porsche, followed by the BMW, the Touring we've just mentioned, the M3, Mercedes, AMG third, Schumacher in the Ford Mustang in 4th, Van der Linde in the Rover Racing BMW, and it takes until 6th place to have Ianken Guven in the Manthey Porsche 911 Grello in 6th place. Good mixture at the very top there. Different manufacturers, always good to see. Open tyre formula for this race.
That's a good point.
Everybody can use what tyres you want. It's absolutely brilliant. I love that about this series.
I counted 9 different tyre manufacturers when I walked down the pit lane. I may have missed one or two because it was throwing it down in rain and quite cool last night when I was doing the live into midweek motorsport. But as Peter Snowden points out quite rightly, it is an open tyre formula, and another problem with an overheating car. And he's been hit by another car. And that...
It was
one of the Mustangs
988, I think, that was stationary, John.
Is that one of the Mustangs that's hit him as he's come through?
Looks like it.
64, 65 and 67, the Mustang, the car that was stationary. Fortunately, the driver was out but hadn't moved away from it, and it looked like it was already having a problem with either smoke or steam coming out. It was one of the Cup 2 Porsches with the turbo body. What number did you reckon that was, Pete?
Well, I thought 988 at a quick glance I saw, but that doesn't seem to compute.
Well, there's a whole load of Team Zork Rennsport cars in that Cup 2 and Cup 3 area.
900.
You think it was the 900?
It is 900.
Okay. So that is the one of the Black Falcon Team Zimmermann cars.
Yeah, Cup 2 Pro, yeah.
Paul Meyer from the Netherlands, Ben Kolowski from here in Germany, Ben Heitz from Chile, and Alexander Hart from Deutschland, from Germany, excuse me. And what was the other car that hit it?
Well, I think that's stopped too soon to have done that. But the Porsche was stationary, and the driver was on the trackside on the gravel watching it. It's the 146 Porsche that's hit it, and he was standing there trying to get marshals to it, and the Porsche, the other one, 146, just didn't see it and just clattered into the back of the 900.
This is on the Grand Prix circuit, and the GT tyres number 146 is one of the WS racing cars, which has got Carrie Scheiner. This is the all-female crew car with Fabian Volvent, Michelle Holder, Janina Schall and Carrie Scheiner. This team has been together before, and just coming out of the Schumacher rest there, was it? On the Grand Prix circuit. And the driver just wandering around at the side of the car. It already had a problem, and there was steam or smoke coming from the original car. So two Porsches. My apologies to Ford, who I probably scared the life out of. I just saw a Ford Racing Blue car going through. Actually, one of...
No, you're absolutely right, John. Out of the Schumacher S, exactly where it was.
Yeah. Well, that bit at least I got right.
But that's what's alarming there is that the driver was standing at the side of the track trying to get marshals to the car, quite rightly, as you would do in that situation. But then gets the other car, the 146, went between the pair of them and hit the back of that car. He wasn't even aware of it. Oh, she wasn't even aware of it. She was standing there, and it's taken the left rear.
I think that car was
off the stationary car, and the front right off the 146. So the 900 left rear, they're going to have severe damage there. I would be surprised if the 900 is repairable.
Well, I think that car was already having a fire, if I'm honest.
Yes, I think that's why the driver was trying to get the marshals to it ASAP. Yes. I agree, exactly what they were trying to do. Yeah.
Now the problem is, of course, that so early on in the session, we haven't had some of these guys around to even tell you who was in those cars. And just trying to get a driver for both of those for you. We'll try and do that. They are both out of the cars, we should say that. And there will be a slow zone now in that part of the circuit. And actually, the circuit is very nearly blocked at that point there, and everybody's slowing down. We've got the BMW Z4s back. This is a bit of a back to the future, isn't it? There are several fan favourites. The Dacia number 300 will undoubtedly be one. The BMW Touring we've talked about. We've got the SAG Motoren Motorsport 3M BMW Z4 E89 Evo. This is a 2013 car. The number 36 has Julian Reer, Ralf Schall, Henry Valkenhorst, you recognise that name, Christian Scherer in that car. And they didn't have the easiest of runnings when they were trying to shake the cars down. but it's great to have that car back. We've also got the HWA engineering speed cars. They are the 61, 62 and 63. Look like an old Mercedes 190e touring car, DTM car. Look like it. They're saying 525, 40 horsepower. It's a V6 twin turbo now rather than the old DTM V8 engine. And whilst the centre section owes something to a 190, the rest of the car has been specifically built for this race. And glorious they look too as well. Top of the shop now is the Audi R8 LMS of Max Kreuzer Racing. Ben Leuchter behind the wheel of that car. And time for that one is an 8 minutes 54. So this is getting a bit more interesting. The HRT Ford Mustang GT3 Evo, the number 67 car, and that is in second but leading its class. So that's an alternative fuel car we've got at the top. Nürburgring and the ADAC 24 Hours has a rich history of bringing new technology in. We've had hydrogen cars here in the past, diesels. The alternative fuel cars, for the most part, I think this year are all running on renewable fuels. As the black Falcon, Giorgio Piana, goes back to the top in the number 5, Gabriele Piana, sorry, in the gold Porsche.
Yeah, only just though. It was 854.2 for the Audi and 854 dead now. It was the Mustang, you say, in HRT Mustang. Dennis Olsen in third place. Harry King in the high-class racing Porsche in fourth at the moment.
That's the number 86, which is the dark red and white striped car. Really nice. High class by name and high class livery as well. Really suits the 992 body shape. Then the McLaren Durr Motorsport. Is it McLaren's? Yeah.
Yep.
Won last weekend at the Spa 6 Hours. Their first victory in the WEC. Then Schnitzelarm Racing GmbH for the SP9 class. If you're not from around these parts, the sponsor there, Schnitzelarm, is a restaurant that specialises in... Anyone? At the back there, Beulah? Yes.
Oh,
schnitzel.
No way.
All schnitzel all day. And we've been saying that for such a long time since they came into the NLS and to the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and we've still not had a plate of schnitzel delivered. We live in hope. We live in hope. At RSL_studio, use the hashtag RSLN24. Hello to Matt Hawkins, listening in. He says, classic start to the weekend already. Yes, it is. Hope you're enjoying it. Good to have all of your company from around the world. Late in the evening, what's 9:45 in Sydney, Australia. I know a lot of you will be sitting up watching that. Again, at RSL_studio. So Porsche on its way back is the... What's that Porsche, Peter, on the back of the flatbed as it comes through? I'm not at the right angle to the screen to see that.
Is that the 146 that's been brought in, or the 900?
I thought they would have brought it onto the... It's a green and white car.
That's got to be the 146 because the front. Oh no, that's the Lion Speed car. That's the number 24 Lion Speed car that went off. Of course, the first code 60.
Yes, of course it is. It's the Lauren Heinrich, Lawrence Vantour, and Ricardo Feller car. So that's very much a fancied car, and already on its way back. The detritus of the accident on the Grand Prix circuit also being cleared up at the moment. So again, no safety cars as such. So this will be covered by double yellows and slow zone. We will have a track intervention car sitting behind that recovery vehicle with its lights on. There's a mixture of cars here. I'm just seeing a Porsche getting pulled in, a rhubarb and custard coloured Porsche Cup 2 car being pulled down the front straight as well, just past us, and that's been pulled by an Audi estate car. We've got Cooper 4 Mentors, the VZs out there. There's still the old pickup truck, the fire truck, the big American Ford, and I think we've still got at least one of the old Jeep Cherokees, although they might have been retired now. We don't see them so often. They were such a feature here.
I bet they're back up though somewhere, aren't they?
Somewhere
in a lockup somewhere, just in case.
They'll be there
on a trickle charger,
ready to go. You know they will. You know they will.
Because you know they're reliable.
Well, absolutely. That straight 6 4-litre. I had one of those out in the Gulf for the first Gulf War. That was our logistics, one of our logistics vehicles that I bought, along with a twin cab, twin wheel Silverado. Right, it is the number 60. No, it's that 982. It's the 982 that's under tow at the moment, Peter. She's, I think, one of the Cup 3 cars actually, as it's being towed around back to the pit lane. So that must have got caught in the cutout. It's the W&S Motorsport Cayman. Now it's Christoph Krombach, Oliver Kuntz, Axel Dufner, Leo Livus, Arne Weber, all German team there, and it is indeed the Cup 3 machine. So Black Falcon going back out in the lead, and now has changed drivers. You'd see the teams doing this, they'll want to get every driver or most of their drivers through, and it's the number 5 car going out with Mustafa Mehmet Kaya, Turkish driver, one of a couple of Turks in the field in that Evo. That is an Evo 26 car, so that's the brand new version of it, that red, orange and gold mainly. Ben Luchter for Max Kreuzer Racer in the Audi in second. He's still the best of the 81 cars, alternative fuel. Jens Klingmann now down to 13th in the BMW M3 Touring, but leading in SPX. The best of the Porsche Cup cars is the Müllner Motorsport. I feel I might be seeing that a lot. The number 904 down in 14th position. And see if I can pick up any more of the leaders in class. Pro Sport Racing Mercedes in the GT4 SP10 is the 176 in 34th position. And Hyundai Motorsport lead in TCR, a class that they've dominated. They've got 3 cars here this weekend, just 1 in TCR, the 830, and 2 in SP4T, which are very interesting because they have some development road car engines in them, in those Elantras. I'll try and pick them out for you, those 2 cars out for you. SP7 is a Porsche, number 82 leading its class. Müller Motorsport leading Cup 3 with their 999 car. That is the highest number we have. We don't often go all the way up the 999, but we have it here. Beautiful conditions. The rain clouds gathering over the back of the castle, which has been refurbed lately. Grello in the pit lane sporting a special livery for anniversaries of both Manthey and the Grello livery. Grello, not green, not yellow, but I could never understand why a German team from Moispath, which I drove in through the back of today to miss some of the traffic, which is literally, they drive the cars to the track, they don't even put them in the transporters, they put amber lights on the top. and drive them to. So, grün und gelb, surely. So it should be grumbled or grelbed or something. But no, it was Grello. They took the English on, number 911.
Well, I don't think they actually named it, did it? I think the fans. I think it came from the other way round.
No, I'm not sure, you know.
It just got known as that, as a sort of nickname, and I think they just took it on board. I don't know.
It was before.
Answers on a postcard to the studio, please.
I think it was before Porsche took Manthey over and sort of subsumed them. Olaf Manthey, he of the fabulous handlebar moustache, and surely the only team manager to have a Haribo sweet in his image. The special Haribo chewy sweet special editions for this race, around this race. Not only had the Golden Bear, there was a 911 and there was an Olaf Manthey. I think you've done everything, haven't you, Peter, when you get a small gummy sweet made in your image, including the handlebar moustache.
There's no future, is there? What else can you do?
Well, he's retired after that, mate.
You're done, aren't you?
He passed the team on to his son and retired. There's nothing more to achieve, is there? Very little more to achieve for Manthey, in all seriousness, than what they've done round here down through the years. They fundamentally understand this circuit. So we are 40 minutes into this 2-hour session. Hello. Good day to Phil Anson. Fabulous Phil Anson. Phil, thanks for lending us your ears and your eyes on this one. A rainy Noosa Heads in not so sunny odds at the moment. He loves the Touring. He says the last estate racing car I can remember was the 850 Volvo in British touring cars. Has there been any more?
T5. I've just got to the bottom of Grello.
Which is?
It's actually Grell is German for glaring, and yellow. It's an amalgamation of the two. Glaring yellow. Grello.
Okay.
It's not green and yellow.
Can you think of
glaring yellow.
Any other estate cars that have raced other than the 850? There's bound to have been something bizarre
T5,
that's been
there's
around
bound
here.
to be something.
In the early days. Probably a Passat or something like that around here.
Mini Clubman. Mini Clubman.
Yeah, that counted as a estate car.
That was just back in the 70s. Mod Sports in the UK. There was a Mini Clubman.
A famous mini tuner has redone a classic Mini as well, and that's going to annoy me.
It's not Nick Swift, but...
Hello, Phil. Hope you're settling back in at home. Roxy at RSL_studio, hashtag RSL N24. Any repercussions for the driver that hit the 911 on the GP track? Well, they'll have a look at it, I'm sure. They'll be checking to see that the yellows were out and what was going on and whether they ignored them, whether there was another car that they had to avoid and move out the way. Hello to Dallas, who's not in Dallas but in Florida. Good morning. NG Auto Art, artist in residence. I presume he's getting lots of inspiration from this. Having a sandwich in the garden. Banana Pie is watching from Trinidad. Hello. I hope your weather's better than this. Philadelphia, USA, Mr. Bedlam. Robert Cruiser from Raleigh, North Carolina. Allard Kalf. Hello, Allard. Are you here this weekend? Walter Streichek was one of my answers in our German F1 Drivers Pointless last night on Midweek Motorsport. Walter Streichek, former head of Opel Performance Centre, is in one of the Z4s. He can't stay away. He was part of the team that brought the Foxtail Manta and raced with his children as well in a couple of bits and pieces. I worked with Volker many years ago. Yeah, turn of this century. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Nothing will ever beat the Peugeot 806 that raced in Spa back in 1995. That would have been my choice for here. It was a 4 or 5 Super Tourer underneath a Peugeot 806 MPV body. I think it might have been a 4 or 6, but it was brilliant. Full works colours, and would have been ideal for round here in those days. And that was Roxy as well. Very good. Honda raced a Civic Estate in BTCC, says L12. Yes, they did. And Josh also getting that in. Yeah, that was Gordon Shedden, and was that Matt Neal as well there? I think it probably was. Ryan Hoover Transport from Chicago, Illinois, running CNC machines, cutting parts. Oh, yes, Ash Sutton raced the Subaru Levo in BTCC as well. Well done, James. Good one. Hello to Sometimes, heading into work in Virginia. Commuting and listening to racing. And KC1881 preparing sleep schedules to watch as much this weekend as possible. We had an Opel Astra Caravan in N24 here before. Thank you very much, René de Boer. And an Audi RS4 Avant and a Citroën XM brake. I remember that Citroën. Excellent. The Dutch Caribbean are tuned in as well with Chris from Curacao. 30 degrees. Can you package some of that up, please, and send it as an attachment? Winward Racing to the top now with their SP9 number 80 car. And the time now down to an 8:45. This is getting a bit serious, Peter, here. People, I suspect, and that's the Mercedes AMG team Ravenel car. Maro Engel, Lucas Stoltz, Fabian Schiller and Maxime Martin. And it's Maxime who's done the time. Watch him if it gets wet here as well. And apparently, Daniel Reynolds told me there was a Commodore wagon in the Bathurst 12 Hours about 15 years ago. Brilliant. Who did we have, Snowy, in that line speed number 24? Who took that car out and subsequently ended up in the barriers?
Stand by, I will find out for us.
Thank you. Because I'm being reminded by Richard that Lawrence Vantor had a weekend-ending crash in the Porsche last year on the Thursday, maybe? It was last year or the year before, Richard, I think you're spot on.
It was Ricardo Fella.
It was Ricardo Fella, OK. But more bad news for that car. Joel Sturm's just coming at the pits in the Dynamic GT Porsche number 54, 8th place for them. So remember when I said cleanse your mind of all things otherly racing and don't worry about big gaps? Well, there's 4.5 seconds between first and second and 4.2 between second and third. And then we're down to tenths and half a tenth and all sorts of things. Round an 8.5, 8 3/4 minute lap. Live and free around the world on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of audio and visual channels. Good to have your company. And of course, also on the World Feed TV via the official Nürburgring 24 YouTube channel, ADAC Ravenel, 24 hours for 2026, the 54th running of this race.
Now, first car the car's just gone to the top of the timesheets, John, with never mind an 8:45, we're down to an 8:42 now. It is Augustus Farfus in the Rover Racing BMW M4 GT3 Evo. It is car number 1. It is position number 1. Why is it car number 1? Because it's last year's winner.
It's Kelvin. I've got Kelvin van der Linde behind the wheel of that on the other timing screen.
Farfus on my screen here, so
isn't that very interesting?
It does have Raffaele Marciello, Jordan Pepper, as well as Kelvin van der Linde and Augustus Farfus in that. My apologies, Farfus in that car. That has just been usurped, however, by our number 44 entry, which is indeed the Falcon Motorsports Porsche, and that has Maurice Schering at the wheel, who's just popped in a 8:41.4. Now, the car that was in the pits for quite a while, I noticed, was our number 3 entry, the Team Verstappen, Mercedes. Max Verstappen took that car out to start with, and they did a driver swap, so that'll be out and there. But we're getting some of the top hitters, top names, sorry, coming to the hit at the top of the list now, John. Schering, Farfus, Van Tool, Martin is in the number 80 Winward Racing Mercedes.
That's Max Martin.
Max Martin, my apologies, yes. And Kevin Estra in number 911 Grello. Christopher Haase is in the Shearer Motorsport in 6th. And alternative fueled cars now is in 19th. That's got Tom Coronel at the wheel, who's just popped. He was 7th, he's 8th now, but it's still the first alternative fuel car leading them from the Max Cruiser Racing entry, R8, with its teammates just behind it with
8th and 9th.
Yeah.
Well, we've got another Trinidad listener and watcher, TK Wound, behind earlier one. I don't know if you two know each other, but you know, welcome. Watching from work in New York, Lost Matrix. Don't worry, I'm doing nothing important other than qualifying, other than watching the qualifying. And James says, would the Ferrari bread van count as an estate or a tourer? Interesting.
I think I'd put that in a commercial class.
Yeah. Rob Fitzgerald reminds us that in the early 2010s, the UK VAG Cup had a VW Caddy racing against all the cars in full RAC recovery colours. I seem to remember that. Boise, Idaho tuned in, and this is Caden. Just walking up, I'm having a coffee. What's happened to the 24 line speed? I think it was the first lap out, as we've just had a spin for the 653 BMW, and he wants to go and put the lottery on because that little BMW just had a spin at the Hudson back, end of the Hudson back, and not hit anything. And
yeah, but he did the right thing, John. When the car spun, he did exactly what he should have done, which is, if you remember, the dear old Jerry Marshall, icon of national motor racing in the UK, always said with these young drivers when they spin, he said, get on the brakes, slow the car down. Was that the 7 Conrad?
The 7 Conrad car going around on the Grand Prix circuit, the Dacia running long.
It's taken to get to the car park.
Well, I tell you what, he might have to show his pass to get back in from there. The 653 was one of the Adrenaline Motorsport Team Manhattan Wales car. The Ben Pitch and Laurent Lepara and. But they didn't hit anything. Just finished the question of from Caden, what happened to the 24 line speed car? I think it was the first lap out onto the Nordschleife, contact with the wall at Metzgerfeld, and did enough to need some barrier repair there for Ricardo Feller, who
we only saw one long shot from behind, which appeared it was just buried in the barrier, not massively heavily, but it looks like it had understeered off or something. Somebody's
dropped a whole load of fluids on the way up to the top of the foxhole, that is, just coming out and up over the top of the brow. That's a very fast place there. That's one of the older track vehicles that's there, one of the American pickup trucks. At RSL_studio if you want to get in touch with us, as many of you are in these early sessions. Right, Clark Duffy has got the picture out of my favourite 806, which raced in the Spa 24 hours. Absolutely incredible that car was for sale within the last couple of 3 years. Greg says, I first watched the Z4s racing at Lime Rock Park in 2015. I was so inspired, I bought myself a Z4. Have you still got it? He's in Rhode Island, in the US. That's what's called marketing. So we are just about to knock on the door. The first hour completed here in the 54th running of the ADAC Ravenel 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. Nicky Katzberg's just brought the Lamborghini Huracan of Red Bull Abt into the pits after an 8-minute 40 dead. New fastest lap of the race from Falcon Porsche number 44 in second. The two, what used to be the two Falcon cars, the 44 is still a Falcon car. The other car, which I think from memory is the 17, is now in Dunlop colours. But we've kept hold of the, yeah, it is the 17. That's the Julian Andlar, Dorian Barcolacci, Nico Melson, and Nico Menzel, sorry Nico, and Alessio Picariello. My brief run down the pit lane last night in the rain and the wind was just enough for me to get some of the liveries in my head. Whilst really more concentrating and not getting hypothermia.
So Nicky Katzberg's now taken the Red Bull Lamborghini Huracan to the top of the time sheet currently with an 8:40.
Just come back in the pits, Peter, as I mentioned, yeah. And what he did was, he did the lap, finished it, and then came round and did the cutout and came straight back into the pit lane. Which is quite... You can do that now. You won't be able to do that later on when we get to racing. So it's Lamborghini, Porsche, 2 BMW, the M4 Rover racing cars, 1 and 99. Then the first of the Mercedes is the number 80 Winward Racing. That's the Ravenel car. Mauro Engel out in that car. That's the teammate to the Verstappen racing car. Manthey Racing, Kevin Estre in 6th with the 911. Then the number 7, the 7th place car is the Verstappen Winward Racing car. Top 10 made up of HRT Ford with the 65 in 8th. 9th is Chris Haase for Share Sport PHX in the Audi number 16, and the Lamborghini Huracan is... Now that's the Red Bull Abt. That's the other Red Bull Abt team, sorry. Mirko Bortolotti in the 84 car. Was just slightly confused for a moment there, having just seen the team car go at the top. And Nick Yellerly has gone back out in the car that is now quickest, having just been vacated by Nicky Katzberg. Early days, though. As I said, chill, recalibrate, pick out your favourite liveries. Lots of Red Bull liveries here this year, which is interesting because the race, of course, is sponsored by Monster, and there's a bit of a, I don't know if there's a bit of a grudge match going on between those two energy drinks. Got a lot of Monster Energy promotional staff staying at the same spot as ours. They were driving very lovely sounding American pickup trucks around last night when I got in. I suspect they'll be in bed much earlier than we will be this evening.
Now, Maurice Schering has just set a new fastest lap to top than the Falcon Porsche, going from an 8-minute 40 down to an 8-minute 30.
Yeah. Well, that's again, reset.
Es ist natürlich schade die Trainingszeit, die verloren geht. Also fühle ich mich einfach schlecht fürs Team. Aber es ist erst Donnerstag und kämpfen weiter.
We're going to introduce you to some more members of the team in just a moment or three's time. And in fact, I'll bring one of them in straight away and say good afternoon to Bruce Jones, one of our usual NLS commentary team. Cold, still a bit slippery and wet out on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, but nobody's told the drivers that we're down to 8 minutes and 30 seconds with a track that finally has no yellow flags or slow zones on it. A little bit of sunshine, I think, is just picking people's spirits up, Bruce.
100%. But I mean, what we're realising here is that every 10 minutes you get a different form of weather. You look down, you look at your computer screen, look up, oh, we've got hail. Oh, no, hold on, it's dry, it's sunny. But, you know, out on track, caution, absolute element. But some of the attacking drives we're seeing at the moment, and I think your point just then, no yellow flags at this moment around the circuit. There may be in a few seconds, but people will just keep pressing on. And again, if it's the first time you've ever witness the Nürburgring Nordschleife, it's a treat that keeps on giving. But looking at some of the faster cars going through, this is the craft you do not learn by just rocking up here, John, and having a bit of a go. You've got to learn how the other people, where the other people in the junior classes may move to, and how you get past.
You were in the drivers' meeting earlier on today with our clerk of the course. Multilingual, many drivers. There's normally 2 or sometimes 3 driver meetings, 1 English, 1 German. And 1 as a catch-up for pretty much anyone else, because there are so many. But I don't think there's actually a room here where they can get all the drivers in at once.
No chance. Not. What do you think about it? Let's do the numbers. Let's call it 3 drivers per car. As you say, some have more, but that's still 540 drivers if you've got 3 per car. But we know fully well it's over 600.
Yeah.
Just say that again, 600.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I was talking to Snowy earlier on, and Joe Bradley's going to step into that far right-hand seat in a moment, about the responsibility firmly being put on the drivers in terms of whose responsibility it is to be safe on this circuit. The word unique is overused and incorrectly used in a lot of scenarios in the modern world, but there is nothing like the Nürburgring Nordschleife. You can argue that every racetrack is unique unless it's been built as a copy of another one, but this one has a character of its own, it has a rhythm of its own, and because of its length and the speed differential and the 20-odd classes, it has requirements from the drivers all of its own.
Yeah, and basically the word that springs to my mind, John, is the fact it's relentless, one corner after another, and many, many points around the circuit. There is very, very small amount of, let's say, line of sight. And bearing in mind, you then factor in all the drivers from the various other classes, and the possibility of contact is very much present at all moments, and it could be an innocuous little half spin. In fact, we just had one coming back up the slope from the Dunlop Carer, and one of the junior class cars rotating around. In fact, it was an Audi TCR car. Very few of those these years. Obviously, things have changed a little bit.
Second time that car's had a spin.
Is it?
That's
right.
Number 821, and that had a spin at... Is that the first corner again?
I think it was actually, yes. It was a bit further up the slope.
One of the more unusual cars here is the KTM Crossbow in a very fetching dark red colour, entered by Writer Engineering, who've done an awful lot of the development of these cars. Audi engines, that's running in the GTX category, and with the clamshell on the front end of it. Looks like a spaceship.
It still just draws everyone in when you look at it. It is something different. It's been around for quite a while now, but what you see now in terms of KTM is not what we saw a handful of years ago. Everything has been advanced. They've got some good drivers in there. Lawrence Hur, who knows this circuit well. Miklas Born, young Swiss driver. But yeah, something different. I approve of that.
Already getting some penalties in that will affect cars in the first race lap. The number 440 not respecting the speed limits. 30 seconds at the end of the race lap. Good afternoon to Joe Bradley.
Good afternoon, John.
Welcome to this year's event. Some thoughts from you on this early running, the weather, the entry, and then it'll be Johnny Palmer.
Well, we've had all seasons, haven't we? We've literally, since we arrived here, we've had bright sunshine with warm, ambient, beautiful sort of sun tanning weather. And then it rained, then it hailstoned, it actually snowed, and it hurt. The hail was actually hitting my face, my recently sunburnt face. And it was actually staying. And then the rain went, and then the hailstones went, and the sun has come out, and we've got a beautiful weather. Beautiful sunshine, I should say. However, the ambient temperature is still barely above 10 degrees. The track temperature, though, guys, will be getting up there because the sun has got some energy in it, and it's kind of perfect track conditions. It's recalibration time, though, isn't it? Whenever we get here, I use this session to recalibrate. It's such a long lap here on the Nordschleife and the 24-hour race configuration of the Nürburgring. It literally takes ages to get around, and you can't look at it. I mean, one of the sectors is longer than a conventional lap at, say, Spa, for instance. So it's a recalibration afternoon before we get into the weekend.
Well, imagine what it's like for the spectators. They come out with a jacket, no, a bit hot in that. They take it off, get a wind cheater. No, I've got rained on. I'll take that off. Oh, what's happened to our tent? You know, it's an endurance event. And if anybody has never, ever been here before, you cannot believe we have tens of thousands of tents and caravans draped over the hillside. And coming in this morning around the Nordschleife, the very southernmost part of the circuit, I literally was flabbergasted.
John said this was a unique track. It's a unique event from the sense of the fans that come here. We've been out there. If you go out there and you venture out on the track, around the track in the fan areas, you get quite an array of German thrash metal. Every 100 yards you get a different beat and a different sort of crescendo of just this wall of sound that you walk through into the next wall of sound, which is blocking out the adjacent walls of sound. It's just an incredible. And of course, they're all drinking beer.
Naturally. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome if you're just joining us to the 54th ADAC Ravenel 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. This is the first proper qualifying session of the week, and it's a great time for us to come in because the gentleman who's been grabbing a few headlines, it's fair to say, ahead of this year's event has just gone quickest in the session. Max Verstappen in the number 3 Mercedes, the Red Bull-sponsored car, doing an 18.539, which puts him 8 seconds clear of the rest of the field. It's been tricky out there with some damp patches here and there, plus, of course, lots of incident as well. So Max not only doing a splendid lap, but also finding the gap through the various incidents as well.
Looking at that lap, I mean, he was astonishingly positive, let's say. He wasn't leaving anything out there, but, you know, there's an element of frustration you have to learn to curb here on the Nordschleife. Very few laps will be entirely clear of yellow. His early laps were stymied. He had a visit to the pits. He went out, but the onboard footage just showed he was not going to let half a chance go. If he could shorten the line around the circuit, he was doing it. But this is not his first play here, don't forget. He's already had 2 runs in the top class and 1 run in a junior class, which is essential to get his ring licence.
Is anyone else going to get in that car, by the way? Because every time I've looked in this session, Max Verstappen has been the name associated to the car. I don't know what the programme with the other drivers consists of, but they're giving him a lot of seat time this afternoon, for sure.
Well, in fairness, looking at the others, Lucas Jules Gounon and Danny Juncadea, they all know this circuit very, very well indeed. But I guess Max is doing the early hard yards. There's another qualifying session this afternoon because he's probably going to get back to the track. He's probably doing a 24-hour race as soon as he gets back to his caravan.
I think that was last weekend, so he's fine. He hasn't got that to distract him. They're clever enough not to organise them on the same weekends.
There is an important thing to be ticking off for every single driver in the race, though, in that they've got to do 2 flying laps at some point during the 3 qualifying sessions. You don't have to do it in each session, but this is treated, the standard qualifying sessions are treated as kind of 3 sessions bolted together. So the quickest times in the various categories could come in this session, could come in qualifying 2, could come in qualifying 3. But at the end of qualifying 3, all of the divisions that aren't permitted to run in top qualifying, their grid positions will be locked in, certainly for start group 2 and start group 3. Because yes, folks, if you've never experienced this race before, there are 3 individual grids all set off at 2-minute intervals. Because otherwise, you imagine trying to set off 161 cars all at once. The final rows, in fact, from about one third back to the rear, can't even see the lights. They wouldn't be on the main straight. So having to do it in 3 separate groups, which is very much traditional in this race and in the Nürburgring Langstrecken series, the shorter 4-hour affairs.
Yeah, qualifying is quite something. They've stirred the pot to simplify it. But I must confess, having read the rules, I'm going to have to read them again and again because it's quite something. But one element of the crux is that in the pro class of SP9, the very top class, the class that Verstappen has entered into, each of the drivers, or 3 of the drivers at the minimum, have to have their times aggregated. So it really is about the strength of the lineup. Yes, I know it's a 24-hour race, Joe, but still qualifying is quite something in a field as big as this, because if you're down in 20th position, you might only be 3 seconds off on your average lap time, but at the start of the race, with the sort of opposite of a concertina effect, you've already lost a fair bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, it is still vitally important because it is an endurance race. It is over 24 hours. There are so many elements, quite literally, the weather element being the main one. I think that's going to be talked about this year. There are so many things that can be thrown at you. However, this is a 24-hour sprint race. And you might think, we talk about this track not being a conventional track, but these drivers, certainly the top class drivers in the SP9 class, they attack this track and optimize every braking, every overtake opportunity throughout the 24-hour race, or indeed their stint time. It is an absolute sprint race for those guys.
But even if you stripped out all the other classes, for an SP9 class, which is for the GT3s, to thrash around this circuit lap after lap, it is something you cannot ever take your eye off the ball. It is just astonishing. However, you do have, they're not mobile chicanes, they're other drivers in other classes, but they are still running at a very, very different pace. It makes it so difficult.
That's why, Bruce, I mean, you guys cover the NLS and the qualifying rounds to this race. You can't just rock up with an international driving license and do the Nürburgring 24 hours. You have to go through a specific qualification process, examination process, before they'll even allow you to race here. And part of that examination, part of that qualification process is reteaching a different driver etiquette, a different track etiquette that has to be carried out, and you have to comply with out there in those situations.
Because we're doing live recoveries, and by live recoveries, we've dealt with this before. You get ADAC HGVs on the track doing laps with the race traffic and speed limits kind of moving with them like conveyor belts. Speaking of which, by the way, Mirko Bortolotti's just done a couple of absolute best sectors at the start of the lap, so they will have been on the Grand Prix circuit. Now he's hit the Nordschleife properly, and I was hearing from some of the guys in the number 16 Audi this weekend who are already pre-qualified for the third top qualifying session. Alexander Sims and Ben Green were telling me that quite a lot of the Hatzenbach has actually been resurfaced quite recently. I said, oh, does that mean it's extra grippy? They went, well, it's smoother, but there's not really much grip out there because we haven't had a chance to experience it because of all the damp and the rain. So it's not really that much quicker, and it's still just as twisty as it was. If they changed any of that, then it would be sacrilege here. But it's interesting, you know, year to year, possibly even month to month, little sections of this track are redone, and you've got to be totally on top of where the grip level is, or more importantly, where the grip isn't. You mentioned recovery trucks, Johnny. I remember a conversation I was having with Rob Huff, having on the way back home after this event. We were on the Channel Tunnel train, so we're all standing outside the cars, and Rob's regaling us with tales, quite literally of daring do, of his race that he just encountered. He sticks his thumb under his chin and he puffs out, you know, came over a brow, pitch black, headlights looking at the sky. All of a sudden the headlights are looking at the track. Recovery truck, hazard warning lights going. He said, I do not know how close I was to smacking into the back of that truck. He said, and that was only one of many, many tales of daring do that he regaled us with.
But it's a factor, but they normally won't just put out one flatbed. Obviously they'll have vehicles around moving slowly. The marshals, they've got, in fact, this year they've got a new system of panels, illuminated panels, but you are still going at warp speed on a twisting and rising bit of track. But I mean, the officialdom here, the thought of it is astonishing, the organisation required. But just the thing about resurfacing little bits of track, it's hard enough when you get levels of track in the dry that have got slightly different surfaces, but when you've got what we're going to get this weekend, a little bit damp, very damp, full wet, snow, heat wave, and then the nature of all those transitions could just be the thing that will tip a car offline.
We talk about the racetrack being rubbered in, and we then talk about when it rains, there's a wet line through corners. If we then got and resurfaced it, and we've got brand new tarmac out there, how quickly does that rubber in? How quickly is there a wet line that will develop? when the weather comes, and it is forecast to be very, very changeable over the course of the weekend, over the course of the race distance, it is going to be a matter of, in a lot of circumstances, pure luck of being in the right situation, in the right car. I don't think at any point of this race that we're going to get any of these drivers saying, my car setup was optimised. I had the right tyres, I had the right tyre pressure, because it's key. These guys will send these cars out on slicks knowing it's going to be wet across the other side of the track with a tyre pressure that will help them, but only help them to a point. And then they're on their own out there.
No, 100%. Also, just bear in mind, you want to learn the track on a regular-sized circuit. You might go and do 10 laps in qualifying. In practice, here you might get 3, and there might be a car on the bit you wanted to try. You know, just so you've got to let them stay where they are. But anyhow, it's an outstanding race. The quality at the top is rising and rising and rising. You can see precisely why Max Verstappen wants to come and take on this challenge. And likewise, as it was in Formula One a long time ago, back in the 70s, we were just nippers. You'd have, like, guest drivers. McLaren might put a third driver in. It's always good to get that benchmark. So the drivers want to go, OK, 4-time world champion, let's see how we can go against him. Where do we stand?
The McLaren story, the 1973 German Grand Prix, Jackie Ickx had walked away from Ferrari, calling it the car a S-box, S-H-I-T box, and McLaren scooped him up. They were Yardley coloured McLarens. Their drivers were Denny Hulme and Peter Revson. In comes Jackie Ickx. They go out for the first practice session, and Denny Hulme and Peter Revson went to Teddy Mayer and said, you are going to have to give him the crappiest tyres you've got and the most rubbish engine you've got, because he's not coming here to embarrass us. So they gave him the longest life engine, and they gave him the hardest set of what would have been Goodyears in those days, Bruce. And he went out, and he still went quicker than him in qualifying, and he still outpaced him in the race. And I actually had the privilege of discussing this with Jackie Ickx at the Amelia Island Concours a few years ago. And I asked him about this. His eyes lit up. And he was, yes, they tried to give me the rubbish car, and no, but, you know, I just... It's that local knowledge, it's that track knowledge, it's like knowing what's coming next to the point where you can absolutely just, you know, throw caution to the wind. And these drivers are going to be encountering that very thing throughout this race.
And some of the early shots in the German Grand Prix, when he entered it the first time in a Formula 2 car around here, because they didn't have enough Formula 1 cars. The track, obviously 25 kilometres, they could fit more in. Just those jumping shots. And he's high in the air in his Matra, just sensational. Anyhow, we're here, different days, same circuit, but plenty of black cloud coming in to maybe spice things up a little bit.
And even before the rain properly arrives back on the Grand Prix track, the Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin in the SP9 division, that's entered as an AM car, having a rotation. I think the 37 car is fairly new out on track, so I'm still trying to identify who's at the wheel of that. We have had action already from 159 cars.
Oh, I've just scrolled past it.
It's Mr. Lonroth. So Lonroth spinning. That will be Marcus Lonroth, who shares with Guido Dumouriez, along with Christian Connert in the number 37 entry. The other thing I wanted to mention was the number 19 car of Jan-Jaap van Roon, which is the Max Cruiser Racing entry. An Audi R8 was the one in the barrier and being recovered in the AT1 class. There was a Ford Mustang in the list that was obviously being investigated for something. Might have been track limits, may have been something within a code 60, but that is a no further action now for one of the Fords that are here in great force again from the HRT camp. And that was car 67, I seem to remember. There are 3 of them, 64, 65, 66. They had very, very cool liveries last year. I haven't actually caught sight of them in the flesh for 2026, but conveniently last year, one was painted completely blue, the other one yellow, and black maybe is the third one. So hopefully the paint schemes are similar, because in the dark that's very, very helpful for us.
They're not at all.
Oh,
one is running in black with red flashes. Think Yokohama livery.
Yeah, okay, yes.
One they haven't put a picture in as yet.
That's also on Yoko's though, isn't it? Even though it's not in
and then
that
you've got
livery.
one that's largely yellow and green. Think, I don't know, Norwich City or something like that. But
nice.
There's another football reference from Bruce Jones, Chopper.
I can't believe this.
Yes, I know.
I do my homework when I know who I'm commentating with. OK, let's just talk about what's at the front. Number 3, Winwood Racing, Mercedes.
And it's got Junker Zeller at the wheel.
Junker's just taken it over.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's been given his go. Then we've got a couple of the Rover Racing BMWs. Did rather well last year. One of them won the race. And in fact, car number 1, Jordan Pepper at the wheel, well, in the pits at the moment. And Sheldon van der Linde in the sister car, also in the pits there, second and third fastest. Fourth fastest, the other Winwood Racing Mercedes, Fabian Schiller at the wheel of that. But we've still got that gap of 8 and a bit seconds between Verstappen's time that put it top. But again, even as I speak, suddenly you've got a yellow flag at Stijlstrekker, and then it's clearing very quickly, so maybe a little rotation. But it is about making your way through the gaps in the traffic. Drivers changing. In fact, Raffaele Marciello's taken over last year's winning car. He's come out of the pits. 45 minutes remain.
Just a point about that winning car last year. They've kept 3 of the 4 drivers in that car going into it. So Jesse Kroon's not with them. But Farfus is back to defend his title with Raffaele Marciello, who you've just mentioned, Kelvin van der Linde, and they welcome Jordan Pepper into that car as well. But, you know, never kind of break a winning formula. That's got to be a big strength for them in 2026 as well.
And perhaps a lovely segue there to remind everybody what this qualifying session's all about, because we've got 5 cars that really this is irrelevance because they've already qualified through to the all-important top qualifying 3, which is where they get an opportunity to actually go for the overall pole to start on pole on Saturday afternoon. So those 5 cars, currently the number 1, the car we've just been talking about, the Rover Racing BMW, with Marciello now just taking over that car from Jordan Pepper. That car has qualified. It's currently second in this session. Another car
the
down
really helpful thing, Joe, is if you look at the scoring tower, it actually says next to the car TQ3, which is top qualifying 3, and therefore we know that the number 1 BMW has made it already. And then further down, you were about to say there were 2 other cars.
Well, there's 5 in total, 3 of which are in the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, 5 of the 12 who go in TQ3.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
The number 84 is another one. That is the Red Bull Team Apt Lamborghini. The 47, the KCMG Mercedes. Shira Sports Audi, you've got a great story about that one, Johnny, the number 16. And the Realize Condor Racing with Rinaldi, that's the Ferrari 296, number 45. So the 84 at the moment, that's already through. That's the Red Bull Team Apt Audi. And the other one that's on your live stream pictures as well is the number 45, which is the Realize Condor Racing with Rinaldi Ferrari. So 5 cars that are really treating this as a practice session and honing driver positions, driver setups, getting a setup in the car that everybody's happy with. And I would think at this stage, looking at the weather forecast, which everyone is aware of, at the Nürburgring, the weather is always going to play a part, isn't she? They'll be looking for a compromise setup on these cars, a car that will be good in the wet on slicks, no doubt. Because you can't just dive into the pits here, because by the time you come out and get back around, it might have dried up, certainly with the sort of weather we're seeing.
So Alexander Sims ticking off at least one of his time laps. He has done one already, so this will be the second one. And as I say, it's 2 time laps in qualifying 1 and or qualifying 2 and or qualifying 3. So you've got plenty of time to do it. And I asked Alex and Ben Green, his co-driver, actually, they were standing together sorting out hands, devices, helmets, that sort of thing. I said, what about this approach to the race with 3 drivers for your number 16 Audi as opposed to 4 drivers for a lot of other cars? And they went, yeah, kind of ask us after the race, because the concentration levels required around here, particularly in the likely weather conditions we're going to have, are sky high. I don't think there's any other race where they will have to concentrate as much. The big positive, as Alexander was absolutely hopping and jumping his way through Hatzenbach, resurfaced it may well have been, but actually the tyres, when they're in the air, don't know anything about the age of asphalt beneath. Track time is key. So cycling your drivers through and actually becoming familiar with the circuit. If we get changeable conditions today and tomorrow, come the race they might be ruining the fact that they've got so much track time. But there's fewer driver changes potentially as well. You know, are the pit stops made more simple? We have had 3 driver lineups win this race in the past, but it is now a few years ago. So it's not always the way to do it, but it can be a different route. And I mentioned in the European Le Mans Series this year, we actually have one of the LMP2 teams running as a 2-driver lineup for a 4-hour race. That seems to be working fairly well as well. But yeah, for the last 4 years, it has been the quartet that have been winning.
Yeah, the last trio quickly check. Black Falcon, Mercedes, Berg Schneider. No, that was 4 of them. Hold on, I can't count. So we're
2021, I'd say.
Quite right. Manti Racing, Cairoli, Christensen and Estra. Yeah, of course they were just the 3. But actually you go beyond that, before that, and you're looking back to, well, very, very long time ago. He says, getting back into the 20th century. Anyhow, rare one. Scheid Motorsport, Johannes Scheid, Sabine Reck, who of course became Sabine Schmitz, and Hans Wittmann, 1996, but different times. The bar has risen some considerable distance since then.
Reminded me of drivers, we were talking the other day, of drivers who've done this event and won. First time out, Niki Lauda in 73, only two drivers in that car. It was a Jägermeister Alpina Racing BMW 3-litre CSL. He shared the car with Hans-Peter Joosten. Only 2, and it seemed to be the trend then, because prior to that, the 70 race was won by Hans Stuck, Clemens Schickenvans. It wasn't until 1976. First race being 70, wasn't until 1976 that we saw teams running 3 drivers.
Yeah.
So that was the 2 drivers. That must have been that must have.
73 was a strange year, because it was actually held in 2 parts. 8 hours on day 1, 8 hours on day 2, and an 8-hour break at midnight. That's your mind type 24-hour race.
Civilized, yes.
So you actually get your head down for 1/3 of the race before doing part 2 of it.
So the 8-hour break was part of the 24 hours.
That's the bit I need to now read about.
That is more like it.
I like that idea. Yes, go off for dinner. Nice.
But when Helmut Kelleners and Gerald Pankel were winning in 1972 in a BMW 2800, that was all the way through the night, 145 laps, and they did it just as two drivers.
And it was a definitive break in the schedule. It wasn't like, a red flag situation or a fog situation or a delay or anything.
The race was held in 2 heats of 8 hours each.
Wow.
Is how it's expressed. But I'd need to do a bit more reading about the 1973 holding of it, in truth.
It was still an experiment. The first one was only 3 years earlier, 1970. So the fields would have been smaller. They would have grown very quickly. But cars are more fragile back then as well, just to make things more complex. But anyhow, we've got to where we are, and there's some very quick times coming. But every time one sees a quick time on the screen, you think, oh, unlucky, just made your record in Sector 2 and Sector 3, but there's a yellow flag coming to greet you.
Is anyone else struggling not to think of Rover BMWs and Alexander Sims? He's in an Audi here, which is a little bit strange, isn't it? He won this race in a BMW, didn't he, back in 2020?
Yeah, just gone 4th fastest. So he's managed to get his way through the past yellow flags at the salient moments. 8 minutes 27, so that puts him 8.5 seconds down. We've got 3 cars very close together, 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So 2 Rover Racing BMWs and now the Scherer Sport PHX Audi, but still the Verstappen time, Max Verstappen time now. Danny Juncker-Deya's taken over that number 3 Winward Racing Mercedes still top of the pile. But you're quite right, that was a good lap from Alexander Sims, but certainly yellow flag areas were popping up around him, but I think he snaked his way through them and got that time in. Clock continues to count down, just over half an hour to go, 36 minutes remain, but again, some good little sector times popping up, but still that time from Max Verstappen. Clearly it was like parting the Red Sea. He got the gap between the yellow flags, and everyone else has been slightly compromised. But I tell you what, if you look at a tracker map of this circuit, you need to sort of zoom in, because the entire lap is covered with 100 and probably about 120 cars out on the track at the moment. Yeah, I did say over 100 cars. It is just simply something else.
And a lot of that talent then is down to the engineer sending the car out at the right point, particularly if you are in some of the middle order categories, to know when it's calming down as far as incident is concerned. Speaking of which, the Ferrari comes through now towards Tiergarten, and there was an ADAC wagon in behind that it needed to outbrake and go around just underneath Antonius Bucher, the little left-hand kink with the bridge. Now back onto the start-finish straight, and the 45 numbered Ferrari with Thomas Neubauer at the wheel. That's another qualified car.
He's the 5th of the cars we were planning to mention who've got through to top qualifying 3. Code 60 out around the circuit, but also just wanting to point out that 3 cars in the top class. The number 786 Renazza Motorsport Lamborghini, the number 40 WSIS Racing Team BMW, that's the Z4, the lovely car from 2013, and the number 35 Walkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin. All they've done is out from the pits back up, and then in the back entrance to the pits, they have not done a flying lap as yet. So we were talking about how what you really need is track time. You need to experience all these changing conditions, and for those three teams, they've not got anything on the board as yet.
Fabian Schiller does an 8:35.9. This is a very cool liveried car as well, the Ravenol car that sits alongside the Verstappen Mercedes, should we call it, car number 3. But obviously there's a great deal of talent elsewhere within that car as well, including Danny Juncadea. But yeah, those two Mercs, the AMGs, were sitting at the front of the garage earlier in the day, looking resplendent. And you couldn't be forgiven for thinking they're not part of the same team, but they kind of are. Winward Racing prepared Mercedes. And he went, well, stayed 5th fastest because the car had been 8 or so seconds quicker than that. Still various incidents. Although, I have now at the bottom of my screen this message that says, green flag, track clear. So it sounds like all the yellow zones have now been withdrawn. And this is the time maybe to put a quick time in with 30-odd minutes still to go.
But what we have some people might still have 6 minutes to go on the lap they're on. They've already been interrupted by yellow flags, so it takes a long time to come around. But anyhow, we'll go with green all round, and let's see what the target time might be by the end. So, yeah, 8 minutes, 18.5 seconds, the best so far. And that's from number 3 Mercedes.
Bit of a practice session for us, this one, and I'm going to practice now having a rundown of all of our classes, which we were bringing you in the race. We're bringing you up to date with the class leaders through quite a lot of classes that we have here at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. And Daniel Lloyd, if you check out the Race Car Engineering website, Daniel Lloyd does an absolutely brilliant breakdown of all of the classes that are going to be competing here in this event. So check that out. It's on Race Car Engineering's website. So down in 115th position is the V5 leader. That's car 440 with Bormisch at the wheel. The first of the Max Kreuzer Racing with Max Kreuzer at the wheel, I believe. That's car number 10. They're down in 107th. They are leading the SP3T class. More details of what these classes mean as well coming later on the day, later on the weekend. 101st place, SP8T. That's the number 59, Duo Motorsport. Weichar at the wheel of that car. The W&S Motorsport entry car 889. That's the BMW class, and they're in 100th position overall. In 99th, these are all very close. V2T Hecker, that's the class name that is. That is being led by the number 519, the Ravenol Japan entry. Dupre Motorsport with their number 480. They are leading VT2 front. That is front wheel drive. That is in 88th place overall.
I'll just fill a little bit of a gap in there, because VT2 is split into what the Germans call Frontentrieb, which is front wheel drive. But it also includes all-wheel drive as well. So it's front-wheel and four-wheel drive cars in the front category. And then you've got Hecker, which is short for Heckentrieb, which is the rear-wheel drive VT2s. And there are no four-wheel drive cars in there. It's just rear-wheel drive cars for things like BMW 330i's. There's a Toyota Supra, well, many of them in that category, etc., etc. Carry on as you were.
So they're fundamentally very similar class performance-wise. However, 88th and 99th positions in this session. I know this is just time sessions. One of my favourite classes, the BMW M240i class. That's being led by the number 195 Adrenaline Motorsport team, Manhattan Wheels. They're in 86th place. 76th place overall is the V6 class leader. That's car 448. In 63rd place, the SP Pro class, being led by the 992 numbered Manthey car. The number 91 Rita Engineering, that leads SP7 in 59th place overall. The TCR class is being led by the number 830, the Hyundai Motorsport Elantra. They're in 55th place. 48th place overall is the SP10 class leader. That's Pro Sport Racing's number 176. And then in Cup 3, they're in 43rd place overall. That's the number 962, the W&S Motorsport entry. SP4T are in 41st place overall. That's the number 50 from Max Kreuzer Racing. The AT2 class is in 38th place overall, class leader I should say. That's the number 320, the 4 Motors entry. RPM Racing with their number 777. That's the Cup 2 class leader at the moment, or the fastest one. They're in 31st place overall, and then just ahead of them in 30th, the AT1 class leader, that's the number 75, Max Kreuzer Racing. 7th overall is our SPX leader, and that's the number 81 BMW M Motorsport. And then SP9 is our overall leader, and that's the number 3 Winward Racing Mercedes. And that's pretty much how we'll keep everyone up to date with the class leaders as we go through the 24 hours on Saturday. But we'll keep you updated with the qualifying as well, because they are forming their grid as we speak, aren't they?
Yeah, anything outside of SP9 and SP Pro and SP11, which I actually don't think we've got any cars from SP11 in this year's race. They're the GT2 cars, the modern version of GT2. But certainly all of the SP9, so that's 40-odd cars to start with, are eligible for top qualifying 1. We will see throughout these sessions, but kind of their place in top qualifying 1 is already reserved. Fabian Schiller had to deal with a bit of traffic through Kesselchen and Klostertal, and then he went by where the 19 Jan-Jaap van Roon Audi had its crash, and there's a big strip of now just quick dry and sand at the top of that very high-speed section. Thankfully not on the racing line, but it's just the last thing you need when you're about to hit the brakes into Stylestrecker there.
Oh, just epic. Had a bit of a change at the top, too, in the last minute or so. The number 64 Mustang, Fabian Schiller, on board. Funny, I had him down in the number 67. Went second fastest. He just edged ahead of the number 1 Rover Racing BMW, but now he too has been trumped by another BMW. This time it's Marco Wittmann, the Schubert Motorsport M4 GT3. But talking in BMWs, you mentioned the top car in SPX as being 7th, Joe. That has dropped down to 11th, but it's such an interesting car. Entered by BMW M Motorsport, BMW M3 Touring 24H. Yes, Touring, it's the one with the estate car body. It's effectively built on top of a regular BMW M4 GT3 car, but with that body, and it's had so much attention. It was something that was done not as a joke, it was almost as a dream, and people, the response was so great, they went, I think we're going to have to do this, aren't we, guys? And it's these little anomalies that just keep things really, really interesting. And it's best time thus far with Hugo de Wilde on board now, may not have set the time. It's very much in the ballpark. Just remember, we've got the number 3 Mercedes clear by 8.2 seconds, 8.1 seconds now after Schubert and Wittmann have gone faster. But that touring body one, it's only 2 seconds further back. So right in the meat of the battle. It's got a very good lineup as well. That's Jens Klingmann, Hugo de Wilde, Conor de Filippi, who seems to have been a BMW Works driver for at least 20 years, and Neil Verhagen, who knows this circuit better than any of them, because he did 3 seasons at least with the BMW junior team, along with Dan Harper and Max Hesse, and so he has a lot of track time here. Not that De Filippi's not got a lot, but not in terms of the last year, doing about 6 races a year here on the Nordschleife, including the 24 hours, means Verhagen, who just seems to get better, is very much one you should watch out for.
This race has always attracted anomalies and novelties, hasn't it? The Opel Manta, most recently, with the foxtail on the aerial on the roof, that car hasn't been around for about 3 years now, if I remember rightly. Car's going very slowly now past the pits into what I suspect is a slow zone, onto the Grand Prix track or into the chicane that starts the lap overall. However, I haven't got any signs. So the number 65 is showing on driver's right, just as you go into the chicane. We've got a yellow flag at Arenberg, but I'm not quite sure. It must be the fact that we've got the number 65. That is, just going to find out what the 65 is.
It's one of the HRT Ford Racing Mustangs. Hubert Hout, Vincent Kolb, David Schumacher, and Dutch racer Colin Carasani. But clearly that's down the sharp end. The sister car, as I said, number 64, one of 2 sister cars, was well placed. It's actually just suddenly, in the blink of an eye, fallen down to 6th overall. We have had changes, and suddenly we've got 2 crews. Raffaele Marcello very much closer to the fastest number 3 Mercedes.
Well, no, not anymore, because Fabian Schiller's gone across the line and gone even faster. But what I was trying to work out was he would have been straight into a yellow flag zone at that point, but I don't think it had worked its way as far back to the control line where it sits now. It was the Haug hook that was the affected area, so the right and the left first first corners. That was initially yellow, and that was the point I think Schiller came across the line in the 80 Ravenel Mercedes to do an 8:14.9.
Meanwhile, the windscreen wipers are coming on halfway around the lap, so just something else to contend. But that time, 2 really quick times, 3 really quick times came in. The number 80 Mercedes to the top for Winward Racing, so bear in mind the sister car, and that number 1 BMW, Raffaele Marcello, still 3 seconds down on that great lap from Fabian Schiller.
Marcello, Bruce, had been looking at the sector times. He'd have been thinking, in 18's on here, I'm going to be there. I might even pip this. And as he done, he literally got to very, very close with matching an 8 minutes 18, and then Schiller just spoiled his party, didn't he? Bosh, 8 minutes 14, and Schiller's come in the back door of the pits. By the way, he's brought in the number 80 Mercedes.
And he must be going, is it raining out the back? Oh, what a shame, hey?
Yes, job done.
That was absolutely perfect timing from Fabian Schiller. He had to contend with some incidents in his first run, and as I say, there was traffic through Kesselchen and Klostertal. Had to be relatively gingerly on the brakes for the approach to the carousel as well. But it didn't matter because an 8:14.957 was done on pretty much a green track, and it's not green anymore, and nor is it particularly dry in places either. So with 23 minutes still to go, although the track is clear again, how much rain is pouring and where, i.e. is it in all the crucial places, as another Red Bull-backed car. This is the 11th fastest Porsche for Thomas Preining, the 911 numbered Manthey racing car. But he has already had to suffer, well, some slow sectors. I'll still be interested to know what this time is. Might be better than the 8:28 that this car has already done to lift it into the top 10 positions in qualifying 1.
Yeah, I was just having a quick look at Cup 2, which of course is the class for the 911 GT3 Cup cars, the 992 Porsches, and it's RPM racing. Tracy Crowe, Nick Johnson raced together for at least 20 years. But
over 20 years,
Philip Hamprecht, but the driver who just set the time, 6 seconds clear in Cup 2. Patrick Heisman, who obviously knows the circuit very, very well indeed. If it's a Porsche, tick it is. Put Patrick in, and the tall Dutchman will absolutely fly, and he's best in class. But, to look for his position, you have to scroll some way down, 31st overall. But, apart from that, he's got a car from the 81 class, the alternative fuel class, ahead of him, and he's got the SPX class BMW Touring, which is in 12th position. But that's a really good solid run from Patrick, what you'd expect. But one of the cars that draws everybody's attention, in fact there are 3 of them from HWA, we've shifted back, Jamie Green on boards at the moment. It's a slice of the 1980s. It's the 190E with all the wings and things. It's reimagined for the 21st century. And the throngs around it in the paddock this morning, people are just drawn to it. It's wings and things and flared wheel arches and brilliant retro liveries as well.
1980s imagery, but 21st century engineering. I think is how I would put that. It's great. Let's have more of them. In fact, let's do the whole 1980s DTM field as a silhouette formula for this race.
As its own class in the 24-hour race.
It's a good,
I'm sold.
We'd call it DTM class, couldn't we?
Oh,
yes.
if you could bring the DTM catering, I'd be very happy. Those were rich days for people getting chubby. What you used to do when into the 90s, when Alfa Romeo were competing, you go there for morning coffee because that was all came
Italian,
from...
of course.
It was, and it was from... Sandro Nini's brother's company did all the coffee. Then you fancied lunch and you take your pick. Would it be Ford or would it be Opel? Afternoon tea, best cakes at Mercedes. It was a tubster's paradise.
So this brand new HWA Evo R, effectively built specially for this race, has a 3-litre twin turbocharged V6 engine, but all the aggressive aerodynamics that you would associate with DTM in the 1980s and 90s, and fabulous to have 3 of them. Actually, this is the one I wasn't able to catch sight of in the garage and in the paddock, the Karcher-sponsored car, which is now going to come into pit lane, and that has Adam Adelson driving it at the moment, but also, crucially, 2 sons of DTM stars in Sebastian Asch and Luca Ludwig in that car as well, number 62. And I don't think any of the drivers are sharing cars. We have Peter Ludwig in the 61.
I think Adam Adelson is in 2 of them.
Oh, you're right, yes. The 62 and the 63, yeah. So he's going to be sharing duties. And it might be the case of whichever is best placed coming into Sunday morning and, more importantly, Sunday afternoon. where he may focus his efforts. But, I mean, the priority has got to be to get those cars to the end of the race, and we'll see how they do. They are eligible for top qualifying 3 because they run in SPX, and SPX is one of those divisions where those places are up for grabs. So, in principle, only vehicles from classes SP9, SPX, SP Pro, and then the other 2 are AT1 and the absent at the moment, SP11. But they're all eligible to start top qualifying. How well would those 3 HWAs do? I'm not anticipating any of them getting into top qualifying 3 because there are only 7 places up for grabs, but you never know.
Yeah, indeed so. But if conditions keep on changing, I'm just trying to see where the best place of those cars are. But they're certainly just providing something different, which I very much like. Yeah,
yep.
35th at the moment for Adam Adelson in number 62. Something different. Of course, the Dacia is still going. The Dacia Logan that's been with us for a very long time. I only discovered recently that... I'll have to have a very quick think. But a driver who I thought I knew a lot about his career, but I didn't realise the first year was in a Dacia series. I'll have a little look. I think it might have been Christopher Haase.
That's quite a little race car, that, when you get up close to it.
Explain to describe it to people.
Well, it looks like the road car version, and you'd think it's just like, you know, you've just slapped a roll cage in it and you've put some race tyres on it. It's not. It's got some pretty trick dampers on that thing, and it's got some pretty robust engineering going into the stiffening of that car. There's the rain board, as if the drivers needed that to realise what was hitting their windscreens. And you can actually see outside on the track now that there is an absolutely completely dry pit straight, but out on the track, the imagery that we're getting from out there is a very, very damp track, and you can see the tyre lines that were left there by the Dacia showing us just how wet and damp that is getting out there. And but this is what this weekend is going to be all about, gentlemen. Everybody that is going to be watching this race is going to be intrigued. Just the wet lines now that are appearing, these cars are on slick tyres, so they're absolutely tippy-toeing around the Nordschleife. It's called the green hell. It's the green wet hell at the moment, though, Bruce.
It is, but yet, literally, as you were saying there, there's a part of the circuit where the cars are in sunshine. There we go, 25 kilometres. You could fit all of this in. Just going back, it was indeed Christopher Haase. 2006, he raced in the Dacia Logan series. Following year, ADAC GT champion. Oh, he's quite good. Year after that, 2008, GT4 Euro champion. So clearly, it got him going.
I don't remember anything about the Dacia series because that didn't stretch across the UK.
No.
But it was a single-make entry-level saloon car formula, wasn't it, to get people? And the cars would have been. I can tell you now, those teams would have been tweaking those cars. The regulations would have been tight, so they would have been tweaking that marginal gain to increase their performance in every way, shape, or form they could. Even angling the door mirrors towards it to shave a bit of aero from it.
Get it up above 80 miles an hour. Yeah.
yes, to get that up to
125k or so.
Yeah.
But there's some very interesting sort of entry levels for a lot of now very well-known GT drivers. I remember Calvin van der Linde, he's a former VW Sirocco Cup champion, probably did many races around here as well. We have Siroccos, I'm sure, in this year's race in some of the lower categories. A couple of moments ago, at a very wet Tiergarten, one of the Porsche Caymans just taps the barrier, but unable to steer, understeering totally to the left and into, thankfully, a tyre wall that is relatively deep, and it has one of those rubber belts across it as well, so you can just use it almost as a snowbank in the Swedish rally, bounce yourself back onto the track. There's no option to pit coming out of that final sequence of chicanes in this format of the weekend. That's why nobody's peeling off to the regular pit lane. You have to do a full lap of the Grand Prix circuit and go in then via the Grand Prix entrance of pit lane, because as you can see, it's coned off. And what that does give you the option to do is actually circulate on the Grand Prix track endlessly if you wish. Just go round and round and round before you're brave enough to go to the hats and back. I wouldn't do that right now because the rain is pouring.
The rain has arrived on the pit straight. You know, literally a second ago, as you heard me describe, looked outside, there was no rain, the track was dry. That looks a little bit hail and sleety, actually, gentlemen. That
there was a bit of hail.
Yes,
when I was walking around the paddock earlier on.
Oh, yeah, there was
definitely
hail that was stinging my face.
Yep.
But that looks... I'm not sure it is. I'm trying to see if it bounces off the ground, and I can't from here. But it's definitely wet. We can see that. It's definitely wet now pretty much everywhere on this track.
It is. I mean, I would just say, when I just smiled at you and said, look, you know, part of the circuit was in sunshine a few moments ago. Then we had the Porsche going off at Tiergarten, which is the final sequence of corners onto start-finish straight. You look out the window, the rain is now here. And as cars go down the start-finish straight, they're looking at relatively bright sky straight ahead. There's a big ominous cloud on the left-hand side. But in fact, it is definitely sleet at the moment. When the raindrops or the sleet drops are hitting the window, there's a big explosion. And we've got hail down at the first corner as well. So you're getting the lot. It's like a spring day in Norfolk.
You're coming off the Dottingham straight. You're absolutely maxed out. You are top speed. And then picking your braking point is tricky enough if the track conditions are consistent. But add in that, sleet and rain, where the driver of that Porsche Cayman would have braked earlier than he expected to have to brake, and even then got caught out. Yeah. I'm glad I'm sat here. I do not want to be any, you know, usually, you know, I'd love to be out in a race car on that track. No. Especially with the weather we've got this weekend.
Yeah, it's just imagine you've done 95, 96% of the lap, maybe almost slightly more, and you slide off even when you've made the extra caution. But, you know, it's moving through. That's the thing. It's not going to stay for long, but what will stay for a while is the track will be greasy, but already parts are back into much brighter weather. Interesting faces. A new face this year at the top level is Patricia Stalizzani, who's racing Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini and... again, stepped up to the Nürburgring Langstrecken series to get experience, but it's nice to see some people pitching in towards the top level of the sport. And for Conrad Motorsport, they've been coming here forever and a day. And she's sharing with Christian Engelhardt and, you know, hugely experienced German racer, Pavel Lefterov, a Bulgarian who's been, you know, competing in GT4 upwards for a good decade. And Maximilian Paul, if it's a Lamborghini, he races it, and he's here. But Patricia... You know, she did GT4 about 5-6 years ago, then had a bit of a gap. But GT Tyre, they've always been entering cars in these events for all-female crews. So she came to compete in that. And then she did a bit of... this is a series for you, Johnny. The NXT Next Gen Cup for mini-bodied electric junior touring cars.
Sounds quite good to me.
Yeah.
I don't mind a bit of touring car racing. The electric touring car racing, I could be sold on it. It's just nightmarish, though, on the Grand Prix track. I was starting to think, why has Patricia been brave enough to go onto the hats and back? Then when she was down at Arenberg, it was beautiful sunshine, and it was like a different season, let alone a different day. So you can get good data if you're not on the Grand Prix track. But this is why the pit lane is just as busy as it is, because I look down the left-hand column of the top, let's say 20 cars in the session, and most of them read the word pit, because clearly the guys that have been setting the pace in the early part of qualifying one see no value in circulating on the Grand Prix track and potentially crashing the car in the very first session of the week.
You're going to take advantage of getting some wet tyres scrubbed in as well during these sessions. They work better. Taking us back to single make formulas and single make series, I want to say hello to Matt Kelly, who's listening in. Matt, you might be familiar with Matt Kelly in the Tuscan series, as well as he's going to now remind me which other single make series Matt did, but Matt was one of those lunatics in that Tuscan series.
It was a fantastic series. I mean, some tip-top drives, but the cars in their own right, they were hairy, they were scary, and they were blinking fast.
Yes, absolutely.
Great racing.
And hello to our former colleague, Shea Adam, who's watching with Sebastian Bourdais at home and enjoying the coverage of this race. Sebastian hasn't done this race. Has he any fancy to? Shea, tell me. Is he
Good
nodding
question.
or is he going, no chance?
He's probably just seen the weather over the last 5 minutes.
Exactly.
That is the clincher.
Yeah.
I'm busy.
He's acclimatised to Florida weather these days.
Yeah, well, he was in action only last weekend in the 6 hours of Spa, so could have stayed in this part of the world. It's only 90 minutes down the road.
Yeah, that's true.
Organise a last-minute drive. Seb, come on.
Yeah,
we'll have you next year.
Yeah, we'll get you a seat.
So the 47 Mercedes is chucking up a load of spray now on the Grand Prix track. This is Jesse Krohn, so was in the winning lineup last year for Rover Racing BMW, but moves across to KCMG in their AMG GT3 car, just on an 8:31.958. Actually, that might have been a little while ago, depending on how good the conditions are on the Nordschleife. And cars such as that, driven by Patricia Stalazzana, finding that out right now. And she's in the Conrad car, so I can tell you that she's just on the rather short Sector 6. The track in this configuration is split into 9 different sectors, but some of them are very short, i.e. Sector 4, that in dry conditions might be as short as 10 or 11 seconds. And then we have the mighty Sector 7, which is sometimes 2.5 minutes. Right now it's north of 3 minutes. So I've never quite got to grips with how it's been decided to split it up in the way that it is, because they're nothing at all, they're not even sectors, but nevertheless useful for the different types of sector, I suppose, because the long one is known for its gradient change and its twisty nature as well. And if a car can be quick through there, then sometimes that you might be looking at a podium finisher if it can be very, very strong through the mighty Sector 7. On the other hand, don't forget about the Dottinger Hohe, where straight line speed is so important.
What is extraordinary, we've had 160 cars go out and at least do the in and out loop. 156 have set a time, but at the moment we've only got about 15 of them out on the track, and those are coming in to put on wet weather tyres. We've only got 8 minutes remaining, so I guess a lot of them would be coming in and go, that's this session. But there we were saying track time is everything. But when you get this in, and you just haven't got a chance to really go out and do what, 1 lap on wet tyres?
Well, you're looking at the sky as well, Bruce, and those black, literally dark black clouds looking very ominous. Out there on the track, the ponchos are out, the plastic raincoats are coming out. There's people sheltering and having the odd beer or two, no doubt. That's a constant, really, isn't it?
It's still flowing, yeah. Night or day, rain or shine, the beer will flow at this place.
But one of the things, I remember my first visit here, I did a walk around through Hats and back, and I thought, those are impressive. If you think you're good at camping, these people beat you. Time and time again, and over the course of the weekend I went on a second walk. I thought that fort's got a lot bigger, and it was being built out of beer barrels. As they got through them, it was another level. Then they built a balcony, and it was just the works. But when you look at the enterprise that goes into the vehicles, we were having a laugh a couple of years ago, weren't we? Flatbed truck, dry ice machine, a hot tub down below it, and overlooking the track at the Hats and back, sitting with a beer in a hot tub. You can have other drinks, but it's not a bad place to be.
The cameras on the live stream will show the structures that the fans will build out there. And when the weather's as inclement as it is for this weekend, it's genius. It's genius architecture as well. I remember, Johnny, can you remember the year we were out at the carousel? We were for the historics, and we were out there in the middle of the carousel hairpin, and we got it absolutely lashed down. And there was me, you, Trustwell, Jim Roller, and we were beckoned into one of these awnings. However, once we got inside the awning went off to like 100 metres down. It was conjoined with other people's awnings, and it was all just one big. It was like, imagine going into a Las Vegas casino and that being connected by a corridor to the next casino and the next casino. It was phenomenal.
It was the TARDIS, basically, wasn't it? A labyrinth of awnings and lots of beer.
And we stayed there a while, if I remember.
All week,
yes.
I think.
Yeah.
If you stayed there any longer, they'd have popped an apple in your mouth, put you on a spit, and put you on the barbecue, wouldn't they? On the rotisserie.
I'm trying to say something, mate. I've been doing a salad option for a long time.
I know, you're looking remarkably true.
I've got another vote for the 1980s DTM class. That comes from Chris Lazenby, who was at home watching, not at the event. He's the one of the series photographers, the 24H series, you remember. So we get another vote there. So we need to take this to the organiser with a petition. How many names do we need in a petition to get things actually happening?
3.
That'll do.
That'll do.
More. We've got 4 then.
Oh, we've won. Speaking of 3, the number 3 Mercedes is back on the racetrack. This is Lucas Auer now then for the 3rd fastest car so far. And Lucas Auer is the game plan here to get his 2 laps in. Well, he may only manage 1 now with 5 minutes left on the clock. But clearly they're brave enough to just test the water, I suppose.
Cometh the man, cometh the hour. I'm not going to say that. Just too
you
awful.
just did.
Got away with it.
But it's the only car of the fastest 16 so far to be out on the track currently. The next fastest is Jesse Krohn, who I've already talked about, in 17th fastest for KCMG in another AMG GT3, and also circulating just on the Grand Prix track is the Porsche 911 GT3 car from Gorian RT. That's a car collection prepared Porsche. They have a long-standing partnership with Audi, but do occasionally run Porsche 911s as well. And car number 4 is entered into SP9. And Lucas Auer, well, choosing deliberately to go across the painted section of the Vidal chicane at relatively low speed because he was coming into the pit lane, so just an exploratory lap there.
I think that's scrubbing wets in, Johnny, to be honest.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're probably getting the sheen, the sheen off the wet tyres, so that they are where they need them to be. There's no messing about with a really, really inoperable wet tyre for a good part of the lap. Certainly during the race, you want the wet tyre to be working, and they are going to be on and off wet tyres and slick tyres, or we may find that. The conditions that are forecast are very, very similar to today, where we've had long periods of dryness, and then with blasts of wetness, and then the sun comes out, and the temperature goes to about 15 degrees for a moment, and then it goes back down to 8. It's great.
You don't know where to look.
Well, whilst we're talking about tyres, it's worth mentioning there is no control tyre for this particular race. It's still very much a standout in that you effectively use whatever tyres you want to according to your programme, and the number 3 Mercedes is running on Michelin tyres this year, as is the sister car at Winward, the number 80. But we have Pirelli, we have Yokohama, we have Goodyear, Hankook, and I've started a list that I can't finish because they're probably over. GT tyres, yes.
Nexon.
Nexon have been here in the past.
Did you say Yokohama? I think
Yokohama I mentioned, yes.
Engelbert? Oh no, that was 1950.
Hoosier would be good, but I don't think there are any Hoosier tyres here this weekend.
I've got a list of tyre manufacturers that are here, so I'll dig that out for tonight's session.
Superb. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in double figures again. It tends to be. So yeah, we don't know which tyre manufacturer will win this race, and that's always a massive question mark. I think particularly in the fact that we're going to be using their wet weather tyres a lot as well. Who has built the best wet weather tyre? Intermediates, I'm not sure whether you can actually use those in this race. You can hand cut or get a hand cut slick. The tyre manufacturers have sort of prepared one of those in the past for teams, so that is an option as well. But it really depends on how much of the track is wet at any one point. Yes, you can say, well, it's horrible on the Grand Prix track, which it has been over the last 10 minutes or so. But if the majority of the Nordschleife is dry, that's just the Grand Prix track is just a section that you're going to have to live with on a slick tyre, because the slick would be so much faster out in the countryside.
And that's where the skill comes in, isn't it? That's where, the really superb drivers, the real sort of alien drivers out there really come to the fore. With black clouds continuing to descend upon various parts of this track, and only just over a minute of this session remaining, we do have cars that are coming out. We've got the Krohn, Tracy Krohn in the KCMG. Is that just Tracy Krohn?
Jesse Krohn.
It's Jesse Krohn in the KCMG Mercedes, currently down in 70. They've ventured out. I'm not sure how far they're going to go around the track, as has the number 4. The Gorian RT Porsche. They've ventured out of the pits. Again, it might just be that they are scrubbing in tyres, with information coming in that the sun has come out. As the black cloud's gone, the sun will come out. However, Bruce, for this session, it's going to remain wet all the way to the checkered flag, which is only in about half a minute's time.
Yeah, just remember, though, these sessions today, 2 hours in this first session, I believe it's 3 later on. It's just I've looked at it and forgotten it in the space of 2 nanoseconds. But for the drivers not in those top classes, these are their qualifying sessions that will confirm their position on the grid. So plenty to fight for, but obviously at the moment they're not going to be able to improve for the remaining, what have we got there? Oh, well, 12 seconds. Of course, some cars might be taking another 10 minutes beyond that to complete a lap, but most people not. The second qualifying session, 3.5 hours. So don't worry, if you've got 4 drivers to get through, you have time to get out. But of course, by then, 8 o'clock this evening, it will be going towards darkness. Not got there yet, but most of the running is going to be in the night time. And so all the classes under the top 4 classes are doing their qualifying. But for the others, for the SP9 class cars, SPX, SP10, which is effectively GT4, this is their sighter. They've got another 3.5 hours starting at 8 o'clock this evening to go and get more track experience. But there's a little stop-start there, but it was a taster, I think, Joe, of what is surely going to come and repeat itself and go in different formations. We're talking weather.
And I've just checked, Bruce, it's just after 9 o'clock for sundown. However, if the cloud cover is thick, that's going to be dark pretty much sooner than that. Maybe 8:30 we're going to see darkness, and certainly headlights will be fully on. Lighting checks, of course, to take place whenever we've got any dark running. That's quite a vital part of running in these nighttime practice sessions. You need the lights to work in different ways here at the Nordschleife. Because of the undulations, you need... we've got light bars that the teams attach to the cars. Certainly in the lower classes, that will be angled at different angles. For looking down the track for when you come over those brows, you can see. And you really... we talked about the concentration level needed to do this race. The concentration level is even heightened to an even further extent when darkness descends and you are just dealing with lights, and it's red lights coming at you at a different rate, denoting the car being slower than you, and lights from behind, well, they just look the same. They're just glaring in your mirrors. You can't differentiate who's who, and it just becomes an upset, and that's why I like sitting here. Yeah. That is why I like sitting here for this race.
The level of concentration in dry conditions is one thing.
Yeah.
But in mixed conditions, I honestly, you have to take your hat off them. I mean, my night vision isn't what it was, that's for sure. But that's why the best want to come and prove their mettle here.
By the way, Fabian Schiller then, quickest in qualifying one with the 8:14.957. We just caught sight of the other cars that finished in the top 10. But the useful thing, if you are eligible for top qualifying, is that you get a flashing light. All the top qualifying 2 cars are eligible to be started with a blue flashing positional light. This is the Lumirank number that is situated in the windscreen. As you look at the car, look at the nose of the car, in the top left-hand corner is the Lumirank number, and that is allowed to flash blue if you are one of the quickest cars. That's a great warning for those cars that are a little slower in the midfield, that a quick car's about to come through. So Fabian Schiller, quickest, as I mentioned, from the Rover Racing BMW, car number 1. Then Lucas Auer, that was a Max Verstappen time, the 8:18.539 to finish 3rd in the session, ahead of the sister BMW from Rover Racing, number 99. Then Mantai's Grello car for Thomas Preining, who got it up to 5th position with an 8:21.7. Ahead of Marco Mappelli's Red Bull Team Apt Lamborghini Huracan. Schubert Motorsports BMW for latterly Marco Wittmann, number 77, was 7th fastest, ahead of David Schumacher's HRT Ford Racing Ford Mustang, number 64. Then we had the Shearer Sport PHX Audi R8 LMS for Ben Green. Most recently, number 16, was 9th fastest, ahead of Nico Menzel's Dunlop Motorsport Porsche 911 car number 17. And in the graphics, we are whipping through, well, already down to 60 cars, but some of the class leaders within the qualifying 1 section. SPX was headed by BMW M Motorsport and Conor De Filippi's number 81 car. Cup 2, quickest there was the RPM Racing car for Patrick Houseman in the treble 7. SP Pro was headed by Mantai's 992 car. That's the sort of inverted Grello car that is more green than yellow. Cup 3 headed by a WNS Motorsport car. Well, you wouldn't have necessarily got prizes for guessing that because there are a lot in that category, but 962 was quickest. SP10, which is for the SRO GT4 category, that was Hoffer Racing by Bonk Motorsport with their treble 8 car. TCR, the quickest there was the Hyundai Motorsport N car for Manuel Lauch, the 830. SP8T, Dual Motorsports, number 59, Aston Martin, quickest. And in BMW T40i, the exclusively 240i class, that runs on a control tyre, the Adrenaline Motorsport team, Manhattan Wheels, number 195, was quickest there. There'll be bound to be categories and classes that I've missed out on, but of course we will keep you filled in through the course of qualifying 2, which is the next session to happen today, and that is deliberately an evening session to prepare everybody for the rather hazardous conditions at night. So yes, we're going to have the weather, but we also run quite a lot of this race in the hours of darkness, and it's important to have at least one of the qualifying sessions. Ordinarily, we would have free practice during the nighttime session, but there is the option to go even faster than a time you might have set in qualifying 1 in qualifying 2. And that's just about the only evening session that is run. So it's going to be very, very precious for those that are wanting to set their car up, as you say, for headlight focusing and other crucial bits of setup that they want to try and get to grips with in the nighttime hours.
It's usually a big jobs list for a nighttime session, Johnny. Back just before 8 o'clock, 5 to 8. Okay. You and I will we'll open things up.
We'll see you then. So quite a session in qualifying 1, which began at 1:15 this afternoon, a couple of hours running, and everyone realising on the radar that the wet stuff was going to hit probably after half an hour or so. So important to get cars out as quickly as possible. And amongst those, the Ravenel number 80 Mercedes, but it wasn't long before this car encountered some incident as it tried to make a move on the Red Bull Lamborghini down at Style Strecker, and Fabian Schiller would get on board that car later on. Conrad Motorsport early on in the session caught up with what looked like an oil fire. The car would put in some laps though later on, so clearly that was extinguished, and the very, very hot components that were causing that cooled enough as Max Verstappen took charge of the number 3 Mercedes AMG GT3 to go at the time fastest with an 8:18.539. And he again having to choose his time wisely to get ahead of some other very quick cars out there. Discussion sadly being done well away from the pit lane for various runners that were involved in, well, another fire for the 900 Porsche. This the entry from Black Falcon in Cup 2, and Cup 2 having north of double-figure entries this weekend. I think that's going to be a hotbed of action for sure, and Cup 2 just has this knack of keeping a nose-to-tail fight going on for hours on end. The Dacia Logan also with a few laps under its belt. It runs in SP3T this year, and the 300 numbered car for Neumann certainly identifying its level and its opponents as well, which is sometimes tricky to do in a qualifying session. You're not always out, of course, with the cars from your category. Busy on the main straight as well, as Fabian Schiller eventually got on board the number 80 car that sits alongside the 3 in the garages, both run out of the Winward Racing organisation. And Fabian Schiller timed his run to perfection through the best of the conditions. The rain had eased off. There was certainly a dry line developing, and he managed to pluck out from nowhere, it seemed, an 8:14.957, just as Raffaele Marciello did an 8:18.0 to go quicker than Max Verstappen, but a further 3 seconds clear was Fabian Schiller's Winward number 80 Mercedes. Thomas Preining tried his level best in Grello as well, celebrating a significant anniversary, but then the rain arrived. That icon on the LED screens tells everyone that it is officially a wet track, and therefore you can start to use your wet weather tyres. Who has got the best wet rubber here this weekend is the next question, because this is one of the very few races that remain in world motorsport where there is a huge mixture of different tyres. Falcon tyre is another one that we didn't add to the list, although remember that Porsche outfit have sort of split their allegiances this year. The 44 car crossing the line, and where did that finish? Eventually in qualifying 1, Tim Heinemann taking it to 14th place with an 8:29.3. Little bit wide on the Grand Prix track for Lucas Auer. But to be honest, in the final 15 to 20 minutes of the session, it was all about scrubbing wet weather tyres in the Rover Racing BMW, hoping that they've got a very quick car to defend their title. Raffaele Marciello took that over along with Dries Vanthoor in the 99 car. And they finish second and fourth. We will see you later, though, for qualifying 2.